This is a little reflection on the masculine from Kirsten, me, who is the founder of Illuminary Leadership Academy, and where I work with how we can balance the masculine and the feminine in all of us, and thus help heal the root cause of the problems that we have in the world, namely that we have a very, very large imbalance between the masculine and the feminine within ourselves and in all of our institutions and in our policies and in our way of governing the world. So this is my big purification, and I do leadership trainings for people who would like to incorporate the new rules of the game. I've written 7 translated books about it. They're on the way in English. And today I work with training leaders to, and I'm actually going to put on a microphone. I work with training leaders in helping them incorporate these new rules of the game, actually a transformation in being, because I think that we all need to upgrade our level of consciousness from the 20th century level of consciousness to the 21st century level of consciousness, and that's a quite big shift. So that's what we work in the Illuminary Leadership Academy, and today I want to share something that I'm inspired by one of the wise women I use or I am so lucky and fortunate, is a big influence in my programs and in my books. This beloved woman is called Oti Kuma, and she's an expert in the Maya calendar system. And my leadership students, they all get a reading of their soul path from this very, very wise woman. And today, Oti told me that I am actually starting something that in the Maya cosmology is called the Path of the Feathered Serpent. And the first thing we do is to honor our roots. And so that has brought me into a day where I really am reflecting on the roots that I am carrying from my beloved father. And I will use this little occasion to reflect upon the fatherly roots' influence on a daughter like myself, and also to talk a little bit about what is the new masculine that I'm promoting in my Illuminary Leadership Academy. Because I have started to work with men as well, and it's such a big pleasure because there are so many wonderful men out there who really are looking to go to the next level and really want to be men in a new way and want to be male leaders in a new way, and they want to free themselves from the old masculine roots and start really leading and living from much more authentic roots and a much more authentic heart and soul, and also a new balance between the masculine and the feminine, masculine and feminine cleansed from the unhealthy parts of the heritage that we have carried from generations before us. So this is my little this is what I'm going to talk about today, and I'll start by telling you about my father, honoring my father, because I am an extremely fortunate woman. I've had a very, very, and I still have, thank goddess, a father that I love very much and honor very much and respect very much. And the reason why I do that is because my father is such a good example of a man who has a healthy relationship with the feminine, both the feminine and the masculine. It's quite rare actually to meet someone, even today, with a healthy balance between yin and yang. Because most of us are a little bit unbalanced, mostly masculine or mostly feminine. It's quite rare to meet someone who is very rooted in his masculine, but also has a very loving relationship with the divine feminine, honoring the divine feminine within himself and outside of himself. And I think my father was able to do that because he had a very, very loving relationship towards his mother. And so the first thing I want to say to men today is that your relationship to your mother, that plays a role for your daughters and your spouses, your wives, your female colleagues. It's so important to get a healthy relationship with your mother. And it's so challenging if you have a difficult relationship with your mother. So I believe that male leaders the first place to start is to look at your root system and look at your relationship with your mother. Because if you have a difficult relationship with her, if you don't honor her, if you don't appreciate her, you're going to have a very hard time honoring and appreciating the feminine within yourself and outside yourself. And it's something that can be a lifelong sentence. It's something that can be something that can actually block your relationship to the feminine for the rest of your life. So it's a really good place to start if you want to get a better relationship to your to the feminine inside and outside of yourself. My father really respected his mother. He respected her yang side. She was actually a very loving woman. I had the fortune to know my grandmother. She was a farmer's wife who lived in the countryside, and she was someone who sewed all the clothes and created all the, cultivated all the food and prepared all the food, and had 6 children, and was a tiny lady but running around all the time and taking care of things. And I think my father observed her and had a lot of respect for what she was able to accomplish while being a very, very pure and loving soul. So I think he has been spending his childhood just honoring that he had a mother like her. And that honoring spilled over into his choice of wife, because he chose somebody who is my mother, who is also somebody who really is able to, who really embodies a lot of the feminine qualities, but is also has a very healthy yang side, very active, very accomplishing, and also with this a big heart and soul. So it really has ripple effects, and the way it's been spilling over to me is that my father has been, a very healthy father, I would say. He's been a role model for me. When I grew up, he worked for the European Commission, and I looked towards my father and I thought I really would like to walk in his footsteps, in the sense of working for a greater cause than just earning money. Because he worked for the European Union because he wanted to promote peace. And also he worked in the agricultural department because he came from a background where agriculture was all about getting food on the table and being able to feed people. And I know that since then it has been associated with polluting the soil, but at the time he really came from this, we must serve we must take care of the daily bread, and also when we work together and collaborate together, it's much easier to create peace. So I looked at that and I thought that I want to work for a greater cause. So my Luminary Leadership Academy is all about working for a greater cause. It's all about going beyond the personal and going for the bigger picture and working for the whole, being a whole self, integrating all the parts of yourself so you are a whole human being, but also using that to work for the whole, for the greater good of all. I was very inspired by that. And then some people can ask, well, was it only a fairy tale story with your father? Did you never have any issues with your father? And I will admit I did. In my 20s, I had a big reflection time where I reflected back on my roots, and it dawned on me that I was part of the generation of women who believed that, who had actually, I think many of us in my generation looked towards our fathers as role models because we grew up in a culture that was honoring the masculine beyond the feminine. So that was after 68, I was brought up in the 70s and 80s, and after that time, it was so important for women to show that they could also embrace all the masculine qualities. So I grew up in an environment where we didn't really take, we took the feminine a little bit for granted. We thought, we can always do the feminine. I mean, that's so easy. That's just about being. And then we looked towards our fathers and we looked at their accomplishments, and we were growing up with the mindset here in the West, especially as Scandinavian women. We grew up with the mindset, well, we must learn to take care of ourselves. We must learn to earn our own money. We must be independent from men. We must not be dependent on anyone. And I even had that I must make a difference in the world. So I actually adopted the mindset that I only had value if I performed. so that I only, you know, my value was dependent on what I was accomplishing and what I was doing in the world. And that created a discrepancy. I remember having talks with my father about it, and which was very good, because then he could tell me that, you know, he honored me also just for who I was. But of course, he was also part of a culture. He's been a very, very hardworking man, and his hard work has resulted in me and my siblings having a very privileged childhood. I mean, he's not the kind of guy who would say, yeah, just hang out and do nothing. But I remember I had these discussions with him, and it actually took me some introspection time and a long time to start acknowledging myself just for who I am and not for what I'm doing, not only feeling that I have value because of my accomplishments and because of what my outer results, but also just by being me, just by being still, shutting up, doing nothing, not pleasing anyone, not serving anyone, not doing anything for anyone. It's enough to just be. So that took me a while to understand. And I remember when I turned 40, my father had a talk with one of my beloved sisters-in-laws, Inge-Lise, and she had said to him, you know, if you really want to do something for Kirsten, you will acknowledge her just for who she is. You will appreciate your daughter for her being. And my father had this beautiful speech that almost brings tears to my eyes. He really acknowledged me for my being. So you can see it actually really had a big effect. So one of my messages in this video is to tell you fathers, can you please go to your daughters and just tell them how much you love them, just for who they are, without them doing anything. They don't have to be beautiful. They don't have to be doing anything in the world. They just for who they are. And it's also important to tell the sons that they don't have to accomplish anything, because I think we have a very distorted relationship with this accomplishing. So it's very, very healing for me the day my father, he stood up and he said, I so honor you for who you are. And when I turned 50, he did it again in a different way. He actually told me about my roots on the female side. So he told me about my ancestors, and he told me about women who had been through so much hardship, losing children, losing husbands, losing material goods, loss, and more loss. But these women, they were strong, and they kept going, and they actually mastered creating happy endings. And I think my father told me that story because I've also been, and I'm very emotional today actually, I've also been through some hardship. I lost a child when he was 7, and I've also had some big challenges in my own marriage, and it was just so beautiful for him that he talked about the roots, my ancestors, the strength. And we all have amazing ancestors. We would not be here today without our ancestors and their work and their keeping going and their unstoppability and their learning and their resolving karma, and then they kept keeping going. We all have these strong ancestors. I mean, it's a miracle. All of us who are here on the planet, you know, it's taken so much to be here at this time. So it's also a day where I honor all of your ancestors. All of us have been through so much. But it was really healing also to hear my father talk about my root system and all the strong women that I come from, the lineage of strong women. So what kind of men do I promote, or what kind of masculinity do I promote at my Luminary Leadership Academy? What kind of man can you risk becoming if you dare entering this leadership training? What is the outcome? The masculine is very results oriented, so I think it makes sense for men to know the answer to that question. And I would say that for me, the goal with the new leaders and the leadership training that I do is that both men and women integrate the masculine and the feminine, as I talked about in the beginning. But I think it looks a little bit different for men and for women. And the way I think it looks for men is that for all of us, it's a matter now of awakening to the giant within. It's a matter of going beyond the little personality, the small self, the traumas, the hurt, the pain, the stories about what we went through. You can see, I mean, I'm affected about it too, but I was never stopped by it. And I think that this is the new thing, is that we can now, we're now at the point in history where we can look back and we can look at all the roots we come from and the experiences we've had. But now it's time to really see how this has prepared us all for the leadership to come, for where we are heading as humanity. We have now experienced the good and the bad and the ugly and everything in between. We have experienced the unhealthy result, the unhealthy masculine, and the causes and effect, or the effects of that. So we have seen what the damage does if we only focus on the outward results and not on the inside. We have seen the high price we pay when we don't use our heart, and we have also seen how small we become and how stingy we become when we don't use our spirit. We take small decisions and we create small results, and usually at the detriment of others. So the masculinity that I promote at my Leadership Academy is a masculinity where you learn from all your history. That's so important. What is the learning? It's such a precious, precious learning. And then you rise to the giant within, the superpower, the extraordinary self, the larger self, with a straight spine, as David Deida says, and an open heart. So it's about embracing the healthy masculine, shedding the unhealthy masculine, and embracing the healthy masculine, and opening the heart, integrating your inner woman, integrating the divine feminine within yourself, and not be afraid of it. Not be afraid that if you open up to the feminine, then you're going to be weak. Means I think somebody like my father shows that his super strength was that he had integrated the feminine. It always made him a very popular leader and very appreciated a citizen in his community, where he founded he founded a Danish church and a cultural center, and he was a very honored, and is, I thank God is he still alive, but he is a very honorable man, and I think it's because he has a good relationship with his inner feminine. So he can accomplish, but he can also use his empathy and his compassion. And I think this is the new masculine, that we have both muscles. Just as it's the new feminine, that we can accomplish, yes, but we can also just be. We don't have to accomplish all the time. We don't have to perform all the time. We can also just sit still and be. Like today, the purpose of this talk there's no purpose. It's just sharing from the heart what I am in touch with, and I hope that it can have some benefit for others to. Maybe it's a reminder for you about, what are the roots that you have in your system? What have you learned from your lineage? What is carried within your lineage? The good and the bad, and what do you want to keep, and what do you want to shed? Because you don't have to just blindly overtake everything that you come with. There's so many methods today to shed it, to overcome it, to transform it, to transmute it, and those methods are something we also learn in the Luminary Leadership Academy, and we use all kinds of helpers to help us untie the knots and clean up the root system, so we only carry the healthy with us forward. It's the healthy parts we need to use in the new leadership. So happy Root Day, Father's Root Day, and thank you to my father for all that he has given me, and all the inspiration and all the strength and support. And mostly I would thank him on behalf of daughters, and I really urge you fathers out there to do the same thing. It is so important for a daughter to feel respected and honored and loved by her father. And I am super fortunate. I know that I have a father like that. I know that it's not many daughters who have a father like that. But if you are a man, you can pick a woman in your environment and you can really cheer on her, because that makes such a difference. It makes such a difference and it doesn't have to be father by blood. It can be, it can be any man who decides to believe in you and cheer on you and support you and be a shoulder when you're a little bit off. It's so important and it makes such a difference. You have no idea. So when a woman is lifted like that by the masculine, she can do anything. So I would say you men, you have such an important role to play in the creation of the new world and in the formation of the new. You have no idea your power. If you just love a woman, if you just support, if you just cheer on her, you've done so much. So you don't actually need to do much more. So with those words, I will leave you and say thank you for all the beautiful contribution in the world. And thank you for watching.